Okay, here is the rest of the vehicle here, the buggy or truck, whatever you want to call it, SCT. Got the shock towers on. We've got this is an option here, the aluminum battery posts that screw down. We've got the rear hubs, which I showed you that in another vehicle, aluminum hubs, and then we've got the front rear block, and then the rear block there, or however you want to say that, aluminum, and then of course the motor mount. But everything else is installed, rear bumper. Now we're going to move on to the shocks, and we'll have that in another video, and we'll go from there. Once we get the shocks done, then we'll start putting some electronics in there. Do that in a separate vid as well. Then we'll do the tires, and then lastly we'll paint the body, and then actually before we paint the body we'll probably go over setting up the trims and whatnot. And anyway, for this video, that'll pretty much do it. So stay tuned for the shock video, and if you have any questions or comments, post them below. And as always, thanks for watching. Okay, now we're onto the shocks. I've already actually built a couple of them. Here's one right here, and I'm going to show you how to build just one of them here. First of all, you'd like to lay out all your parts, separate them all, which I had done, and now they're kind of built, so they're not in the way. But lay them out in groups, each part with each part and whatnot. So with this particular kit, and these are all going to vary just a little bit. This has a cartridge, a kind of a unique cartridge that it uses. Associated are quite a bit different. Kyosho makes some of the best shocks out there, in my opinion. When I used to run on-road, I would run, especially in my Associated cars, I would always run Kyosho shocks. So, first thing we want to do is, there's this cartridge here. And again, this is all in the book, so you may not learn much. What I like to do, there's a series of O-rings and a spacer that goes in here. I'll use some shock oil on there. This is the kit shock oil, which I'm not going to be using for the actual build itself. So we'll go ahead and put one O-ring in there. Then we've got our thick spacer here. Go ahead and throw some oil on that. You don't need too much, but oops, stuck to my finger. Then we'll throw the other O-ring in here. And then the last portion is this white spacer, and it goes a certain way. We'll throw a little dab of oil on there. So, got those in there. Next, this little cap goes on, this little aluminum cap. Go ahead and put that on. Hopefully you can see this. This is one thing I do not like doing. I like it better than turnbuckles, but turnbuckles are the worst. I don't know why I hate them, but I do. Anyway, get that out of the way. Next we've got our shock shaft. Now keep in mind, shock shafts are different lengths. These are the rears. Here's a front. You can see it's quite a bit shorter, so take that in consideration. Go ahead and put, there's these little C-clips, E-clips, whatever you want to call them. We used to call them E-clips. Go ahead, that's how I like to put it down. The first one, just sit it on a table, smush it down, and it's in there perfectly. Next will be our shock piston, which I'm using one of the kit shock pistons, and the other one is one I had to buy. It only comes with one set of 3B, and I want to use 3B all the way around, which I don't know why they do that. But then our last T-clip here, this one you won't be able to sit on the table, so you're going to have to get a pair of needle nose and hope for the best. These ones are kind of stubborn. There we go. That one's on there. See if you can see that. And focus. There we go. And I always like to put the 3B or whatever the indicator is on the top. So with these shocks, you build them from the bottom, so it doesn't matter as much. A lot of them you build them from the top. So there's that. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to get a pair of these look like needle nose, but there are no ridges. Go ahead and hold. Or actually, next thing we want to do, sorry, a little ahead of myself. We want to slip on this cartridge, but what I like to use is Associated lube here. It's a green slime, and what it does is you don't need too much, just a little dab and then smear around. What it does is it helps it keeps the shaft smooth, and also it prevents tearing into those O-rings. Although we did put oil on there as well. So we'll go ahead and put that on. Make sure it slides on easy. Next we'll move to our flat needle nose. Again, there's no ridges in there. You don't want to grab it with a pair of needle nose like this that have ridges on them, because you're going to more than likely mar that shaft, and then that's not a good thing. So, and then go ahead and put the eyelet on. And with these, you do want to make sure the overall length, like on this one, I'll show you with the measurement here. The kit, usually a pretty good start, and that's usually where I stay with off-road. They want 38 millimeter from the eyelet to the cartridge. So go ahead and measure that. Oops, a little bit too far there. And we are a little bit too short. What, 36, I'm sorry. I said 38. Actually at 36.45. And we'll go ahead and tighten that a little bit more. Now, more importantly than the length of this is to get them both consistent. So you want both of the shafts the same length on the rear and on the front. You know, you want the rears to match, you want the fronts to match. Otherwise, if you have one that's a little longer, you may get some, especially jumping, when the suspension rebound, or you know, when you compress and it rebounds, or it could mess some things up. I mean, it's not real noticeable, but it could. So more importantly than the overall length is to make sure that they both match. If it's a little long, a little short, that's okay usually. Just make sure both are the same. So I'm going to go ahead and button this up, and then I'll get this situated, and we'll come back to the next step. So stay tuned. Okay, next thing we want to do, I want to get one of the upper shock caps and the shock mount, or eyelet I should say. And there's a rubber O-ring that goes there. Go ahead and put those on and screw them onto the shock body. And make sure it goes on smooth, because you don't want to tear into that O-ring. And the other thing we want to do, we've got our completed shaft here. We do have an O-ring that needs to go on there. And we'll go ahead and slip that over. Pull it down. Actually, I should have put this on before. It's no big deal, but go ahead and slip that all the way down into the groove. Hopefully you can see that. Focus, focus, focus. Come on. Come on. Maybe zoomed in too far. Yeah, there you go. You can see it there. So we've got that done. And the last thing we want to do is we want to put some shock oil in here. I'm using 27.5 Losi. And what I like to do is get a steady stream going. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Probably not, because of the stupid cap. But, and I'm trying to look at the camera and film at the same time. Okay, you just may not be able to see this, because otherwise I'm going to get it all over the place. So I don't want to get it all over the place. So just kind of get a steady stream going. Trying to prevent as many bubbles as possible. I don't know why that's coming out like that. Well, I know why, because of the way I was holding it so you can see it. Okay, fill it up to about the threads. I've got a little bit more than that in there. Go ahead and take your completed shock shaft. Make sure the cartridge is all the way to the piston. And go ahead and slowly screw it in there. Now we're going to get some that comes out. And, pardon me, that's my phone. We'll go ahead and screw it down until it stops. Stop. Now you notice you can't push it down. You want to pull it out, or unscrew it I should say, just a little bit, and then slowly push it in. And you'll see all the excess come out, along with any bubbles. And you should really only have to do this once. Slowly pushing it in there. It's all the way down. Go ahead and tighten it up. Comes with a little tool to tighten it. Again, I've made a complete mess because I was trying to watch and do this at the same time. Then go ahead and pull it out. And you should have a really smooth shock shaft. That's it for that part, and we'll be back. I gotta take that call. I gotta call that person back. It's actually my stepdaughter, so go ahead and call her back, and then show you how to put the springs on. Stay tuned. Okay, last thing I'm gonna show you on the shocks, we got one last O-ring. Go ahead and put some oil on there. Then we've got a shock collar here. That is to adjust the shock. Go ahead and squeeze that O-ring in there. There we go. Go ahead and thread it up the shaft. And this should have a little tension on it. Shouldn't be binding, but it should have a little tension. You don't want it to be loose because you don't want it to come loose or change positions when you're actually racing the vehicle or what have you. So go ahead and get that. I like to start them out pretty close to the top. There we go. Got that on there. And yes, I am a messy shock builder. Next thing you want to do is put the springs on. Now, Kyoshos, they're all black. You may think that they don't have marks on them, but if you take a magnifying glass, you'll be able to see. I'm running 70s in the rear and 75 in the front per the setup I'm running. So I don't know. Yeah, you probably won't. See if this will actually work. I don't think so. It won't work. But anyway, you can take a magnifying glass. You can see what number. There's on one end. There is a very small marking of the number. We will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, you've got the collar on. As I was mentioning, the spring, there is a certain side that actually has the actual number on it. So again, we're going 70s in the rear. Go ahead and slip that on. Put the eyelet, or the capture here, and there you go. You've got a shock with the spring. Next thing that goes on is just these little eyelets here. Go on the top, little plastic pieces, and then the bottom there's a little ball that goes in there. That's it, and you mount them to the vehicle. And again, placement on the vehicle will depend on the setup you're running. And pretty much all we got for this one. Just wanted to show you. A lot of people have different ways of building shocks. This is my first time building this kind of Kyosho shock. The old ones used to feel a little different, so hopefully this setup works okay. They feel really smooth, but I don't really like filling them from the bottom. That's how the low-C shocks used to be. I like filling them from the top, and I'm just not used to filling them from the bottom like that, so not that that means anything. But anyway, that's all we have. We will next continue on probably with putting in electronics. So look for that in the near future here. So as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, post those in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, subscribe.